From now until about spring break, we will be on the muscular system. And then after spring break is where we're really going to get into dissections. I need to look at the lesson plans, but within this first 8 classes on the 7th or 8th class, we will have an outside person come in. We will do ultrasound, and it will kind of be in conjunction with what we're doing in here in class. We'll have someone from the outside come in about 4 times this semester to do ultrasound with us. Yeah, we're gonna speed through. We'll do muscles, and then we will get into, we'll do dissections of heart, brain, eyes, and a full cat. And then for the juniors, when the seniors leave, we'll kind of decide on kind of whatever topics we want to cover. But that's for the end of the semester. All right. There will be more quizzes this semester in order to just facilitate easier kind of grading for me. And the way that we will evaluate the muscle systems is that you will, after you build your muscles on your skeleton, you'll individually quiz with me. All right, and they'll be before we finish the, so after we finish the first unit is kind of when we'll open up to people being able to take the evaluation for the first unit. And then after, before we end the second unit is kind of the due date for when you have to test for the first unit by. All right. Here we go. Muscular system. So there's a couple of rules about skeletal muscle activity. Almost all skeletal muscles cross at least one joint. So if you think about it, having a muscle, in order to be able to facilitate movement, we have to cross something that will allow us to move. And so if we have, with few exceptions, all of the muscles cross a joint. You know, you can think of the exceptions are going to be in and around your skull. Second rule, typically the bulk of all skeletal muscles lies proximal to the joint cross. So Tim, what is proximal going to be? Closer to the torso, closer to the core. Good. So the advantage of having the bulk of the muscle proximal to the joint is that we're able to hold that power and have more pull on the joint, more force on the joint, versus if we have it distal to the joint. All skeletal muscles have at least 2 attachments, are origin and insertion. Typically, origins are more proximal, insertions are distal. So if you're ever lost, use that as your kind of guiding star. Origin is almost always going to be proximal, and insertion is almost always going to be distal. Skeletal muscles can only pull, we can't push. So if we think about where, say, our biceps is, it's right here on our humerus, and then it crosses our elbow joint, and it pulls on the radius in order for us to flex our elbow. Elizabeth?
If they have more than 2 attachments, are the other extra attachments just called other insertions?
So depending on, so you could have multiple originations, you could have multiple insertions. So, you know, we don't, you know, call them insertion 1, insertion 2, insertion 3. If you talk to probably someone who specializes in that particular area, they'll probably call it the primary and secondary origin insertions. For the functions of our class, we're not, for the most part, you are only going to have 1, maybe 2 origins and insertions. So I think the maximum number of pieces of information you have to know is like 5 per muscle. I think that's how I kept it. And then during contraction, skeletal muscle insertion moves towards the origin, never away, right? So, excuse me. With contraction, with that pull, we're pulling that insertion towards the origin. And you know, you can't, the way that skeletal muscle is designed, and the way that it functions, it doesn't have a mechanism to push. It can only pull. And so then if we can only pull, it moves towards the origin. Makes sense? Any questions on these rules? All right. So we have a couple types of body movements. Like I said, we have no fewer than 2 attachment points. We have the origin. It's typically an attachment to an immovable or less movable bone. So you can think of on our quadriceps, our quad, its origin is on our ASIS. And so with that origin, that ASIS isn't going to move. But its insertion, that attachment to a movable bone, is through the patella into your tibia, onto the tibial tuberosity. And so that tibia is a little bit more movable compared to the ASIS, which is part of the pelvis and more stationary. And then body movement occurs when we contract across the joints. So with that contraction, with that movement, we're moving, we're enabling movement across the joints, moving bones. All right, so then we're getting into a couple types of body movements. We have flexion. In flexion, we're decreasing that angle of the joint. So if I think of a curl right here, if I'm flexing, I'm decreasing the angle. This is the angle right here that I'm talking about, this elbow angle right here. We flex, I'm decreasing that angle right here. Extension, so we're decreasing angle, we're bringing those bones together. Typical of a hinge joint, so like a knee or an elbow or a ball or socket joint, so like a hip joint. Extension is going to be complete opposite of flexion. So if I start in a flex state, I move into extension right here. We're increasing that angle between these 2 bones. Think of straightening the elbow, straightening the knee. And then extension beyond 180 degrees is hyperextension. So we will have some joints that where clinicians will talk about hyperextension. So you might be able to say in an injury, typical mechanism is a fall to an outstretched hand or whoosh. And so if I fall to an outstretched hand and let's say I dislocate my elbow, I can dislocate it anteriorly. And so I will go into hyperextension and my forearm bones can kind of pop out of that joint and come out, and I can have an elbow dislocation. So that would be a hyperextension event. Any questions on flexion and extension? All right. So then here we have a couple of diagrams demonstrating flexion and extension. So we can see we have flexion at the arm right here. We have flexion at the knee right here. So we're decreasing that angle. Extension, we're moving opposite to the flexion, increasing that angle. In the head, we have flexion and extension. One, typically from anatomical position, most of the time flexion is going to also be forward, I've found, with kind of the exception of the knee, where flexion, where we're reducing that angle, moving our heel posteriorly. And then we can also have it at torso flexion extension. Okay. Now we get into rotation. So with rotation, this is movement of a bone along its longitudinal axis. So you can think of your hip joint. Hip joint is a ball and socket joint. Think of the head of the humerus and the socket being the acetabulum in your pelvis, the ball, the humerus, socket in your pelvis, or think of your atlas and axis, moving the atlas around the dens of the axis, so shaking your head no. So rotation, so in this picture, they call it lateral and medial rotation. For our purposes, we will call it internal and external rotation. That's how I was taught, but both are acceptable. Then we also have circumduction and rotation. So circumduction is a little bit different, but we can see here also that head rotating. Circumduction, yeah. We'll cover circumduction later. And then abduction and adduction. So these two are sometimes difficult for students to conceptualize at first. So the way that it's kind of been best taught to me is abduction, we're moving away from the midline. Adduction, adduction. So you can think of adding that limb towards your body. We're bringing it, adding it to your body. It's the opposite of abduction, moving that limb towards the midline. So adduction and abduction. Abduction moving away, ABD, and then adduction, ADD, moving towards. So really looking for these first two almost letters to help guide you on which one is which. Abduction and adduction. Circumduction now. Circumduction is a combination of flexion, extension, abduction, and adduction, common in ball and socket joints. So the proximal end of the bone is stationary and the distal end moves in a circle. So you can think of if I'm standing here with my leg and I rotate my foot in and out, that action is happening at my hip. And so that ball and socket is rotating, moving in and out in a circle. We can also get circumduction at the thumb. So if you move your thumb in a circle, that's the same kind of motion where that proximal end of the bone is staying stationary and the distal end is moving in a circle. So we get good circumduction at the thumb. You could also get circumduction. You could also argue that circumduction happens with the elbow and wrist, where we have, for the most part, that stationary portion of our radius, and then the distal portion right here is rotating in a circle like. However, at the wrist and hand, we have a special name for that type of circumduction. But we're moving on to the foot right now, so keep that pinned right there in your head for a moment. We have a couple of special movements as well. So in the foot, because both ways, anatomists have agreed now that both ways that you move your foot up and down reduce the angle of the joint in one way or another. So they don't call it flexion and extension. They found it was a little bit easier to classify it based upon the part of the foot that you're moving towards. So either the dorsum of the foot, or the top, or the plantar aspect, or the bottom flexion. So we've classified them into dorsi and plantar flexion. So dorsiflexion is lifting the foot. So that dorsum of the foot, or that superior surface, approaches the shin. And then plantar flexion is pointing the toes away from the head. So think of pushing off of that plantar surface, that bottom of your foot. So dorsiflexion towards your dorsum of your foot, plantar flexion, planting, pushing off of your toes and foot. All right. Two other special movements, inversion and eversion. Inversion, we're moving the sole of the foot medially. Eversion, we're turning the sole of the foot laterally. So because of the special shape of the ankle joint, we can do all four of these movements, right? So inversion, moving in, eversion, moving out. The most common athletic injury are inversion ankle sprains, and it's typically because if we think about the anatomy, we think about the ankle joint, we have that hard fibula on the lateral aspect. So that's going to be where we would have an eversion ankle sprain. So since we have that hard bony barrier, we're much more likely to have an inversion ankle sprain and move the joint in a way where we're going to sprain the ligaments on the lateral aspect as compared to the medial aspect. All right, so now getting back to that special circumduction that happens at the elbow and wrist for the wrist movement. We have supination and pronation. So the way that I think about supination and pronation at the wrist is if you're holding a bowl of soup, you're supinated. Soup. Bowl of soup. So forearm is rotating. So if we think about this in anatomical position, forearm rotates so the palm faces anteriorly. In that anatomical position, radius and ulna are going to be parallel to one another. Versus if we have pronation, we rotate medially. We follow that thumb, we're rotating medially, and our radius and ulna cross each other like they're in an X. So let's grab the skeleton here. We have our nice skeleton right here. Supination right here, we can see these bones are parallel. But then once we cross them over into pronation, we can see they've crossed in an X-like shape. So we've poured that soup out, pronation. We're pouring the soup out, supination, holding that bowl of soup back up. All right, and we have a little diagram here, pronation and supination. That pronation, that radius was rotating over the ulna. Pronation or supination, excuse me, those bones are parallel. All right, moving once again into the hand opposition. So we have the dexterity in our hand to be able to touch our thumb to the rest of our fingers. And so that's going to be opposition, touch of the tips of our fingers on the same hand. So one of the ways that we can do this is to have people try and bring both of their fingers together. And then another way that I test opposition in clinic is I have someone hold their hand straight and try and touch the base of their fingers without moving their other fingers. Because sometimes you can get people who move more of their, let's say, you know, someone has a thumb injury and I'm trying to test opposition. Having them move their pinky more than their thumb isn't going to give me as much information as if I have them try and reach over and touch each of their fingers individually with just their thumb versus with both fingers. Okay, opposition. Any questions on movements? All right, last one, and then we'll take a 5-minute break. So there are a couple of different types of kind of classes of muscles, I'll say. We have prime movers, agonists, synergists, and fixators. So prime mover is going to be that muscle with the major responsibility for the movement. So you can think of the muscle that's primarily doing that particular movement, primarily making that action happening. Typically it's going to be bigger in size than a synergist muscle. So then muscles that are opposing or reversing a prime mover is going to be an antagonist. So we can think of real good example is our hamstring and our quads. Our quads in the front right here are going to be the prime mover for moving our leg into moving our knee into extension. And then the antagonists to that movement are going to be the hamstrings. Whereas if we flip that, we talk about flexion of the knee, the prime mover is going to be the hamstring and the antagonist is going to be the quads. So then a synergist is a muscle that aids a prime mover in movement or reduces undesirable movements. So we can think of, these are going to be muscles that are around the prime mover working, crossing the same joint. And you might see in the actions when we talked about different actions of muscles, they have similar actions, but comparatively, when we talk about the two of them, one is a little bit smaller, so the smaller one is going to be typically the synergist. And then fixator, these are going to be specialized synergists that hold a bone still or stabilize the origin of a prime mover. I don't think we will come across, we will have one or two of these when we talk about them. So you can think of maybe a lot of these are going to be like in and around your head. Or you might see this more in non-humans where you have muscles that hold or have a latching system in order to stabilize. All right. All right, let's go take 5 minutes. We'll go over naming conventions and then we'll see if we can't get started on some basic muscle play today. All right, naming conventions. Well, while Michaela's having something.
Because I still have the connection. They were really like.
Oh, whatever. Naming conventions. So there's a couple of different criteria that we can use to name muscles. We can name them by direction of muscle fibers. So rectus being straight, or the size of the muscle, maximus being largest. We can name them by the location, temporalis being temporal bone, the origin, number of origins, triceps. So the triceps is going to be 3 heads. Think of biceps being by 2 heads. By the location of the origin and insertion. So sterno being on the sternum or shape of the muscle. Deltoid is triangular. Action of the muscle, flexor and extensor, or being flexion and extension of the bone.
How much of this stuff do you have to be responsible for?
So the naming conventions, I don't think are on the quiz that I have. Opposition. So we're going over all of this stuff now to kind of give you background knowledge for when I talk about origin and insertion and naming stuff, so that it's probably a little bit easier for you to understand and give you tools to give yourself context clues for the muscles that we'll go over. Triceps, flexor, extensor. Okay, so just some naming conventions. You can use these to reference later and help you kind of figure out, help you kind of categorize muscles. All right, muscle shapes. All right, so before we go over this, we are gonna get each of you all a tray in the back. So there are a number of trays back here. What I want you all to do is I want you to have a bin, a mat, and there will be some sculpting tools in there already. If you have clay in your bin already, good for you. It might be a little hard because it's been sitting out for 2 years. To come take any of these bins in these 3 rows, and we will find some paint for you all to put your names on. All right? Go grab a bin.
Why does it look like that he left?
I mean, I was with soccer. That's probably like come around with some tape. Yeah, so for the clay that's been left out for 2 years, we'll have to massage it a little bit. You'll have to, hold it, but you will be able to. So just go ahead and write your names on the tape down on your buckets.
Or is it just Steve? Oh, Steve. This is so was it like Scotland? I don't know. I mean, I tried. I switched to. Mine is like here's the camera.
Yep.
No, it's the
So, take your So we are first gonna make some of these muscle types, muscle shapes, excuse me. So we have circular. So probably the first one I'm gonna have you make is circular. Take just a chunk of your clay and you can go ahead and start molding it, squishing it. Once you get it pressed and moving, it will become a lot easier to use.
How much do you have?
Probably this much. Just take a pin. Doesn't need to be that big. Doesn't need to be. So you're just gonna mash it up like you're making dough, so that you can get it nice and pliable. And so then when I make the circular muscle, I roll it out. And then I put it together and then smash it flat a little bit for these circular muscles. Circular. Oval, circular, whatever. We're just doing types of muscle shapes. So, it doesn't need to be all precise. And then I will take I might take one of my marking tools, or if you have maybe one of these playmaking tools, or one of these small knives, you can do it as well. And then I'm just going to, you can see the stripe, you might not be able to see it, but the striations, the muscle striations on this one go in a circular pattern. And, oh gosh. So now my quite ugly circular muscle. The muscle striations just go in a circle.
Do you have an extra tool in fact that I have two knives. I'll trade you. You have an extra. Oh, do you have an extra?
You can even flatten it out and cut it out as a muscle too. That one specifically.
So like,
Yeah, right here. Yeah.
It's like pulls apart and then goes back.
What? Circular? Yeah. Hey. Hey. No. We're just doing demo muscles right now. What do you mean?
Like, I wanna do the ear on the face.
There's no muscles in the ears, Chloe. All right, then I'm gonna start making my parallel muscle. My parallel muscle is just gonna be a long, thin cylinder for all intents and purposes. And the parallel muscle, D, letter D.
Oh.
We have to keep the circular one.
You can reuse it. What parallels look like that? We're making D, yes, parallel. So I'm gonna taper one end. I'm gonna taper both ends so I can come in. When I make my parallel muscle, you can come in with your hand at an angle at the end to make it taper off. So we end up with something to look like this.
Oh, that, okay. So. Put one side of my hand down.
It's supposed to.
Huh? And then for striations, we're just gonna go straight along the muscle.
How did you make it like that? It's not correct. I don't remember.
So you
One side is
Is it red? Always red. I'm gonna stand. Stand's I got wrong. Oh, the striding just lines, or do you have to be like?
They're just lines. All right, and that's parallel.
Wow.
And then we will do one last one before we go. No, we don't have time. It's 9:02. Class ends at 9:05. All right, so we will pick back up here. Next class. Make sure you know where your bucket is with your name out.
Who started on?